Welcome to the Diary of Discovery, the podcast where we delve deep into the human experience of healing and transformation. I'm your host, Jacky, and each week we will sit down with inspiring individuals who have embarked on their own personal journeys of healing and self-discovery. From overcoming trauma to navigating life's challenges, our guests share their raw and honest stories, offering insights, wisdom, and hope to all who tune in. So grab your favorite cup of tea, find a cozy spot, and join us as we uncover the power of resilience, courage, and the pursuit of authenticity. This is the Diary of Discovery. Amazing. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I am super excited to welcome yet another incredible guest to the podcast this week. So we have the lovely Fiona joining us. Fiona, do you want to tell everyone where you are in the world and who you are?
Yes, so I am in the UK and I am in a small place called Ferndown, which is halfway between Bournemouth in the county of Dorset and Southampton in the county of Hampshire. And it's really interesting. Who are you is actually a really interesting question because my first impulse is to say, well, I'm Fiona Grant. Yeah, that's my name, but that just tells you my name. It doesn't tell you who I am. So who am I? Well, I'm so many different things, but I would say at the heart, at the most basic level, I'm love and I'm fear. I'm both of these things because at the love level, I am a soul, I'm a spirit, I'm pure love. And I'm also a human being living life in a human body, in a human experience. So, and because of the amazing construction of our human body, and that part of it has this survival response, so that if we are in any type of danger, which can be life-threatening, it triggers this fear so that we can take action. So that in essence is who I am and where I am.
I love that. Thank you so much. And I think as we go through and talk about your healing journey and where you've come from and what you've gone through, that introduction will make even more sense to people. Um, but I literally am like so excited already because I know where this is going. So, thank you so much for sharing. So, let's take people to the start of your healing journey then. Let's take people to the moment you realized something was wrong, the moment something had to change. Like, what was the thing that you had to heal through? Yeah, let's start there.
Thank you. So that's a really interesting question because I kind of think of my life in terms of separate healing journeys. So I suppose the particular healing journey, that particular moment for me was actually in 2018 when I was seated in my doctor's office and he said to me, "You've got type 2 diabetes." And although I'd had a blood test and I knew that this was going to be a possibility, it still felt like this huge shock for me. Something that I had to try and process in the moment, something that while I was trying to process what he said to me and what that meant to me and how I felt about that, I had to also take on board the information that he was sharing with me, what he was telling me. And so what he said was his prescription for me was to lose weight, eat eat a healthy diet, live a healthy lifestyle, and he offered me 12 weeks free at a diet club and also to join the diabetes education program. Now, when he said those words, lose weight, eat healthily, live a healthy lifestyle. Now, it's really two of those words that really, kind of like, lose weight. I mean, it's so easy to say those words, isn't it? Lose weight. It's just like I could go out there and just lose weight. It wasn't going to be, it wasn't going to be any effort at all. It was just something so easy to do. But for me, I had struggled with my weight for 40 years. 40 years, lose weight, 40 years. And over those 40 years, I had wanted to lose weight. It wasn't as if I'd gone over those 40 years and thought, oh, I don't, my weight doesn't bother me. And if it hadn't have bothered me, it wouldn't have mattered at all, but it did. And so I did want to lose weight. And the so when I was 14, my mum took me to Weight Watchers to lose weight. And that actually made me feel awful because it was like she was saying to me, there's something wrong with your body. There's something wrong with how your body looks. You need to change how your body looks. There's something wrong with you because of how your body looks. And this, as I said, made me feel awful. And I did actually lose the weight then. Um, and it took me a year on because then it was like you had to eat certain foods on Weight Watchers. There was like a plan that you had to follow. And after a year, I'd lost a stone. And there were so many, you had to eat certain foods, and there was certain foods you could not eat. And before that, I would say I was a savory girl. I was somebody who liked cheese and with crackers. I wasn't somebody, if we went out for a meal, I wasn't somebody who would, have like a sweet pudding. I would have, oh yeah, cheese and biscuits would be great, thank you. And but after doing Weight Watchers, I became a girl who ate sweet things. I can remember eating a whole packet of chocolate biscuits, something that I'd never ever done before because of what had happened over that time. And so once I'd stopped the diet, which I did, I ate some foods I hated. I hated liver. It tasted like rubber to me. It's like eating rubber, although I've never eaten rubber, but that's how I thought rubber would taste. And so I put everything that I'd lost back on much quicker than I'd lost it, and I put more on. And I swore that I would never go to another diet club again. And then over those years, I tried to lose weight again, but I never I never lost the amount of weight that I wanted to lose. Before I reverted back to how I'd been eating before, and then I put all the weight back on that I'd lost and more. And then in my 20s, I decided that I was going to lose weight again because over those 40 years, there was only 2 times that I actually reached my desired weight. Over those 40 years, only 2 times. And how many times? I mean, loads of times, much more that I would have actually tried to lose weight than just those 2 times. And to do that, I made up my own restrictive diet because I was never going to go back to a diet club again. I made up my own restrictive diet, and I actually hated myself to that weight. I talked to myself just in the most awful, awful, awful way, a way that you would never ever speak to anybody else. It was actually abusive. I actually mentally abused myself to get myself to stick enough to that restrictive diet to actually reach my desired goal weight. And that was kind of like that's all I was trying to get towards, was that goal weight. Nothing beyond that, just that goal weight. And I can remember going to bed at night so hungry that I would lie there in bed and I would just think about everything that I wanted to eat. If I could, what would I eat? And I would just lay there in bed, kind of like dreaming about, thinking about everything that I would eat if I could. And I can't have been a pleasure to be around. I must have been so grumpy. and so, irritated with people because of, you know, what I was doing to myself and how I was talking to myself.
Oh,
And I lost that weight. But then when I actually reached that goal weight, I immediately went back to how I was eating before and I put everything I'd lost back on and more. And then I tried again to lose weight, and I never got down to the amount that I wanted to before I reverted back to how I was eating before, and I put all the weight on and more until it got to a point when I decided this is just utterly, utterly pointless, me going on diets anymore, because I'm just, even if I do lose the weight, I'm not going to, I can't keep it off. I cannot keep it off. So it's just pointless. And going back to 2018, seated in that doctor's office, I knew that I had to do something different. I couldn't do what I'd done before and expect different things. And also something else I wanted to say that I had forgotten to say was that it wasn't, my mum, when I was 14, I'd had felt the things that I felt because she'd taken me to Weight Watchers. However, society, the media, the medical system were all telling me, you know, to lose weight and keep it off, you just need willpower. That's all it is. There's nothing else. You just need willpower. If you've got enough willpower, you can lose weight and keep it off. That's all it is. And it made me feel like I had a character flaw. It made me feel like there was something wrong with me as a human being, that I was fundamentally flawed in some way, that I just couldn't lose weight and just keep it off because I didn't have the willpower. So in 2018, seated in a doctor's office, I I knew that I had to do something different. I couldn't do what I'd done before, because if I did, it would just be what had happened before. So luckily, thankfully, gratefully, I had been trained as an EFT practitioner. And for those that don't know, EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. And that's also called tapping. And what tapping does is it uses the certain of the Chinese medicine acupressure points. And like acupuncture uses them, but acupuncture uses all of them, and it stimulates them through needles. But probably, as the name tapping suggests, we actually stimulate the certain acupressure points in EFT just with our fingers, just with tapping gently on our fingers. Sorry, with our fingers, not on our fingers, with our fingers. And I had been, I would say, in 2015, I'd been guided. It was synchronicity that it was the universe, it was something greater than me that led me to this EFT training, because that hadn't been on my radar at all. Actually, previously to that, an acquaintance of mine had actually shown me tapping, and I thought, I'm never going to do that. Looks like she's hitting her body. Since learning EFT, no, that's not true. You're just gently tapping on it. But to me, looking at her, it looked like she was hitting her body with her fingers. And I was like, I'm never, ever going to do that. And so I decided, I have EFT. Why don't I just apply EFT to this? And that's what I did.
wow. Oh my gosh. I mean, like there's such a piece here for people to, I think, like just hear and understand around how you were talking to yourself, how society, family, everything was making you feel, and how that impacts how well you can look after yourself. Like there's a massive direct impact of what we believe about ourselves as to how we show up in the world. And if we believe in ourselves that we are fundamentally flawed or there's something wrong with us, that's going to massively impact how we show up in so many areas of our life, in so many ways in the world. And it's going to impact what we think we are worthy of and, what we're allowed to have and how we're allowed to behave. And especially with things like weight as well, there is so much media and stigma and a portrayal in movies and social media and all of these places as to, well, if you're overweight, you are lazy, or if you're overweight, you're undisciplined, or if you're overweight, like it's your choice that you've made. And a lot of the time, it's actually just education. Like it's actually just people understanding how their body works and what is good for it. Because as much as the media tells us don't be unhealthy, everything it then feeds us from fad diets and, all of these kind of like ways of getting healthy are all really unhealthy as well. So it's this like vicious circle that never really helps anyone in getting the education and learning about how they can look after themselves. So I think it's really incredible that you not only kind of recognize like, okay, something needs to change here, that's fine, but actually that you took a really active role in finding a way that you could do it that worked for you. So rather than just going down those very typical exercise and eating, actually you looked at what do I have available to me already and how can I use those things to help me. I think that is again like it's just really important for people to hear and for people to just understand that it doesn't always have to look like what you expect. Like this journey can be so personal. And that's what makes, I think, every single person's journey like really important to share. So when you were going through this, so you're in the doctor's room, you get told, like you've got diabetes. That in itself is obviously a big shock and something that is, like now your life is going to change and you really need to kind of figure this all out. As you were going through that, what did you have to embrace about yourself or like recognize about yourself or accept about yourself to actually make that journey possible and make the change that you're now sitting with possible?
So it's thank you, and it's really interesting what you said as well. So I'm going to bring that in as well. So it was I had to accept that I had to actually apply EFT. If I didn't apply EFT, if I didn't do something different, which in my case was the EFT, I was going to get exactly the same result as before. So I had to apply EFT. And also that I didn't want to do a diet where I would feel so hungry that, I'll go to bed and I'd be so hungry that all I could think about was, what I would eat if I could. So I wasn't going to do that. I was not going to eat in a way where I was so hungry. And and also that because of all my experience with dieting, those words in itself, diet and dieting, were triggering for me. So I thought of it as a healthier way of eating for me. That's what I was looking for, a healthier way of eating for me. And interesting, I just use the word looking because at that time I thought I was looking for it. I had to find it, that it wouldn't come to me. And it's interesting that you spoke about education because using EFT, that would have helped me get to that place where it would have kind of naturally happened by applying the EFT that I would have gotten to a place of healthier eating with my food, a place that worked for me, because that's different things for different people. Healthy and healthier means, eating means different things for different people, and how they relate, to their food is different for different people. Now, I got education about food in the first time ever in the diabetes education program, which was actually very useful and very helpful. And I'm so, so grateful for the diabetes education program. However, what was even more important, what actually made the difference, because even if I'd had that education, if I hadn't applied the EFT, that would have just been education because of what was going on in my body, my subconscious, my autonomic nervous system, and my brain itself, because consciously, I wanted to lose weight. My God, I wanted to lose weight. I had type 2 diabetes, and that was a really, really scary diagnosis. And I didn't want to get all of the things that you can get with diabetes, that can happen to you with diabetes, that can shorten your life with diabetes. And so consciously, by God, I wanted to lose weight. Not that I hadn't wanted to lose weight over those 40 years, but in this moment in 2018, I wanted to lose that weight because of the type 2 diabetes. But on the other side, so my conscious brain, the conscious is like 5 to 15% of our mind, if you like. I'm going to call it mind, but I don't really think of it as mind, but technically it's probably not mind, but I'm going to call it the mind. 5 to 15% of our mind, the conscious mind. 80 to 90, yeah, 80 to 95% is our subconscious mind. So what do you think is running the show? Conscious mind, I want to lose weight. My God, I've got type 2 diabetes. I really 100% want to lose weight. Subconscious going, well, no, because of all the programming in my brain, in my body, in my autonomic nervous system to keep me at the weight that I'm at, to keep me in the relationship with the food that I have, to keep me eating in the way that I'm eating, because at a time in my past, with something that was happening to me, that it that's what my survival response said, you know, food, let's go to food. And because the brain and the body and everything are so efficient in that way, in the way that, well, it's helped in this moment. So let's just keep doing this again and again and again and again. And that's why when you get that desire to eat, be it a craving, an emotional eating, a stress eating, a binge eating, an overeating, that's the only thing you can think of doing, because it's your conscious mind that is actually the last to know. Your whole body, your brain, your autonomic nervous system are all going, eat, 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 now, 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 this food now. So it's so strong. So it's, as you can hear, it goes way beyond willpower. It goes way beyond education. Although, having said that, I really found that education so, so useful, so helpful for me, and did make a difference for me. But if I hadn't applied the EFT, it wouldn't have made that difference because of the programming within me.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, a lot of people discount how much your nervous system actually plays a part. And a lot of people don't understand the nervous system's job, because we have this thing of, fight and flight. The nervous system is there to keep you safe. Yes, but the nervous system's idea of safety is not always correct, which I think a lot of people don't actually realize, they don't actually understand. Because your nervous system could say to you, staying in this situation because we know it and it's comfortable is safe, even if the situation isn't actually safe. So whether it is, binge eating, whether it's a relationship you're in, whether it's a way that you're looking after your body, like whether it's a substance abuse, like whatever it is, your nervous system goes, we know this is safety here, when actually your conscious mind is looking at it going, well, no, treating your body in that way or letting somebody else treat you in that way or doing that thing is not actually safe. Like it's not actually getting you what you want. But your nervous system really struggles to make that definition. It's not possible for it to make that definition. So I think that thing of like tapping or any anything where you're actually working with your nervous system and you're working with that kind of subconscious level to reprogram what safety is and what that new normal, if we put that in inverted commas, because what is normal, but that new normal for you is, it then changes that dynamic of what your nervous system feels is safe. And as you change that subconscious like programming and that bottom layer, a lot of people will say, oh, well, I've been in the situation for so long, and then like suddenly I got to the point where it was just so uncomfortable that I couldn't stay in it anymore. And that moment of uncomfortable is your nervous system now saying, oh, actually, we've figured out that that's not safe anymore, and something else is safe, and now we're going to push you to go there instead, and we're going to push you to move. And it's like it's such an interesting concept when you actually understand how the nervous system works and that it triggers everything. It's not your conscious brain that actually drives your nervous system, it's the other way around. It changes that whole dynamic of how you look at life and what's possible and why you are in the patterns that you're in. Because a lot of people, I think, have that belief that there's something fundamentally wrong with them because they can't show up in the way that other people show up. So there are people who, are super healthy, go to the gym every day, like do all of these things. And I actually read a really interesting quote the other day from Alex Hormozy, who's an influencer, but also runs gyms. Like that's his industry. And he was talking about this idea of discipline and saying, when people come to the gym and they want to lose weight, personal trainers get really annoyed because they're like, why don't these people have discipline? Like, why don't they come at 5 a.m. when they're supposed to? And Alex Hormozy was saying to them, you're missing the point. Like, you're missing the point here. And the personal trainers were saying, no, well, we're disciplined. We get here at 5 o'clock in the morning. And he said to them, no, you guys aren't disciplined. You guys enjoy getting here at 5 in the morning. It's something you like. You are not taking yourself out of your comfort zone to do this thing. It's something that is natural to you. So actually, you wouldn't be a personal trainer if you didn't like coming to the gym, if you didn't like working out, if you didn't like being in the space, if you didn't like being healthy, like you wouldn't be in this space. He was like, actually, what would be really uncomfortable for you and you pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, like go do that thing regularly and then come and talk to me about discipline of people who struggle to get into the gym. And it was like there's such an interesting concept that actually everyone's idea of discipline or hard or easy or, whatever concept, whatever words you want to use are completely different. Everyone's relationship with their bodies, everyone's relationship with their minds, their nervous system, like it's completely different for every single person. So I think like that as well is like such an important thing for people to remember as they go through this journey. Like you can't look at somebody else and go, why am I not like that? Or why can't I do what they do? Or why isn't it as easy for me? Like it's so easy to look and compare, isn't it? I mean, social media has taught us to do that. It literally is what was programmed into us. And I guess like I know you were talking as you were going through, like before the doctor's appointment, there were multiple times where you tried and it didn't work and it worked to a degree and then got worse, etc. Once you'd had that doctor's appointment and you'd decided obviously, okay, new healthier way of living and eating, we're going to do tapping, like we're going to go on this education program, we're going to do all of these things. Were there moments from that point to now where it was still really, really hard and you didn't think that it was going to work and you didn't think that it was, or like, was that kind of like the line in the sand, the turning point?
2018, when I decided to apply EFT to it, I didn't know if it was going to work. I had no idea, but I knew I had to do something different, and I had this tool. And I've heard all these things in my training about how it could work, what all the areas that different areas of life that EFT can help with. So I knew it could help, but I didn't know if it would help with this. I didn't know if it would help enough with this. Um, but I would say, and there were times over the course of losing the weight, because it was my natural state. It was a natural state for my subconscious, my body to, tell me to eat this food, to tell me to eat, and not only to tell me to tell me to eat certain foods, but to tell me to eat a lot of those certain foods. So, when that would come up, I was using tapping. So it wasn't like I decided and then I never desired to eat the food. I just went and lost the weight, and I never had. No, that isn't what happened. I those because that was all programmed for 40 years. It was all programmed in my nervous system. So I had those times. However, there was one time that did actually derail me. Now, before I share with you what that time was, I just want to put it in context a bit. So in 2019, I'd lost over 5 stone. And for those that don't speak in stone, that's over 70 pounds, over 31.75 kilos. And over the time of losing weight, I had some big life events, challenges happening. Now, for example, I was there for my mum, supporting her in every way that I could, in any way that I could, after my dad passed away. And also, after I lost the weight, there were also big life challenges. My mum had lung cancer. So it wasn't as if there were no, really big challenges going on over this time. However, over the Christmas holiday season in 2019, my mum passed away. And on the day that my mum passed away, I had to go food shopping because I basically had run out of food. And it just happened the day she passed away was the day that I was designated to go. And I wasn't going to share this bit, but I am. So I went there, and my mum had just passed away. I was going into the supermarket to do food shopping because I had to. And then as I walked there, there was this lovely on a stand, where you have lots of kind of things on it. There was this plaque that said Angel, and my mum always used to call me her angel. And then when I was walking down a clothes aisle to get somewhere, I don't remember where I had to go to, but I walking down this clothes aisle, and there was this top that said "lovely girl," and my mum would also always say to me, call me lovely girl. So it was like these were two messages for me from my mum. However, this hit me so hard. The grief was overwhelming. And at the time, I didn't realize that actually, I think I was also trying to process the grief for my dad too. Because when my dad passed away, as I said, I wanted to be there and support my mum in any way that I could, in any way she needed me to. But also, I decided I was going to be strong for her, so that she could, go through all the emotions, so she could experience that all, so that she could process it all. And so I hadn't grieved for him fully. So there I was, my mum had passed, and also it was now time to grieve for my dad. That wasn't a conscious thought. that was what was coming up for me. And so what I did was I returned to my old way of eating. Not only did I return to my old way of eating, I also drank lots of white wine. That was another way I like to drink. So I drank lots of white wine and also watched lots of TV. I mean, I was somebody, and I still am somebody who loved to read, and really the way I truly relax, one of the ways I truly relax is sitting and reading a fiction book. That's really lovely and relaxing for me. But I couldn't even read. The only things I could do to find any comfort, to escape those overwhelming, to try and escape, try and process whatever my system, my body, my subconscious was trying to help me do. I used food, white wine, and TV. And that went on until my clothes started to feel uncomfortably tight. And over that time, I put on 26 pounds. And it was a short time, I think. I think it was around 2 months. And I put on 26 pounds. However, there were also huge differences to before. So this time, when my clothes felt comfortably tight, I didn't just think I'll go and buy some new clothes. It was, I'm just going to go back to how I was eating before. And when I went back to how I was eating before, and I was still grieving, we're talking around 2 months. So I was still grieving. I was still trying to process all of that. And I felt relief. I actually felt relief at returning to this healthier way of eating. And I'd never felt that before. I'd never experienced that before. It was an incredible feeling. And also I know there was something else as well, but maybe it'll come back to me. But the other thing was that I decided that I would like to get some more advanced training. When the right training came up and when I financially could, I decided that I wanted to do that as well. And again, synchronicity, the universe, a power greater than me, it all came up and lined up. And I mean, that I think has taken how I can help people with their weight to a new level than I did before.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's grief is such a hard thing in itself. Like it has so many impacts that a lot, I think, yeah, if you've not gone through grief, it's really hard to explain how it affects all of the aspects. But I think that that is, yeah, it's so incredible to hear that shift in, like that's when you know that the healthy lifestyle has taken hold. You actually felt relief to go back to it rather than it being like when you were dieting before and it was like as soon as you stop you go back to how you were eating before and then it's balloon weight again and it is such a different impact. I think that's so incredible. It actually gave me goosebumps when you were talking about it. Like I think that that's just amazing because that's really when something has fundamentally changed. Like when actually going back to it makes you feel such relief, and that's really, really incredible to be able to shift your life like that. I think, again, a lot of people don't realize how much work it takes to make these big fundamental shifts. Like, they are actually really challenging. Like, this is why, for so many people, dieting doesn't work because it's not actually a fundamental shift. It's a restriction for a short period of time. Like it's not actually a fundamental life change. So I think that that's really, really incredible. And it kind of leads nicely on to like the next question, which is this idea of like, what was your biggest outlook change in life from where you were before to where you are now? was there like one thing, like one belief or one sort of like thought process that like really fundamentally changed for you as you were going through this process?
I think the biggest outlook change was that because of how I saw and experienced, my relationship with food changing, um, I was somebody, so for example, I was somebody who before had to have bread every day. If I didn't have bread, I would be like, oh, I just couldn't. I had to have bread. I just couldn't not have bread. I had to have bread. And I remember realizing, like 3 weeks had passed and I hadn't had any bread. I hadn't thought about bread. It hadn't even occurred to me. There's like in the supermarket I go into, they do have fresh baking. So you do get the smell of bread or cakes, or you do get that smell. And I hadn't even noticed, I hadn't even noticed that smell. It hadn't, made me think, oh, I wish I could eat, uh, you know, let's buy some bread. I want to have some bread. I just realized, and I wasn't bothered. I wasn't bothered at all. And I also, another food I noticed that with was I had to eat potatoes every day as well. I had to have potatoes for my evening meal every day. And again, there was like, I just suddenly realized that the 3 weeks I hadn't had any potatoes. I hadn't missed them. I hadn't thought about them. So, there was all these kind of changes that I was experiencing as I applied the EFT, and that was shifting my experience with food and eating. And actually and also there was a later shift, which was after I'd lost the weight, and when I was actually after I'd put that 26 pounds on again, and I returned to my healthy eating, and I was losing the weight. I was losing the weight again. And when I weighed myself, I was at this kind of strange weight loss plateau. And by that, I mean, I would lose a pound, I would put on 2 pounds. I would lose a pound, I would put on a pound. And it was kind of like this weird fluctuating thing. This was going on for weeks. And I was eating healthily for me. I was eating in my healthier way of eating. And it was just strange. You would have thought I should have I should have lost weight. It wasn't doing anything that meant I shouldn't have lost weight. And the thought came up to me. So I'd obviously been tapping over this time as well. And the thought came up to me. I was in the bathroom washing my hands one day, and the thought came up to me. You've told yourself that when you lose that weight, you're you're going to get out there and help other people with their weight. Ah, so there's like this subconscious inner conflict that we can call it. So, there was part of me that really wanted to help other women because of what I'd been through. I knew how it felt, and I really wanted to help. And then there was this other part of me, the part that, as you use words, wanted to keep me safe, because for some reason it saw unsafety in this. This was unfamiliar doing that. Um, and it was like, well, no, let's hold on to that weight. Let's just hold on to it. And so as soon as I tapped on it, that was it. It just went down. So that's what I was experiencing. And so this showed me absolutely that it was nothing to do with willpower. It 100% nothing to do with willpower. It went way beyond that. It showed me that it was never a character flaw. I mean, if you go, and even beyond that, if we go back to previous times, like with the artist Reuben, it was all about the curvy woman. That was what was healthy. So it's kind of like what was acceptable body shape and body size at the time. And it just, it showed me that no way was it a character flaw. No way did it say anything about me as a human being, that my abilities and who I was or what I could do. It never said anything about me as a person. It was nothing to do with that at all.
I
And that
love that.
was really that was the really huge outlook change for me.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that. I think that that is such an incredible, like such an incredible shift as an outlook shift because as we said, like the whole time that you speak meanly to yourself, you are making it more difficult for yourself to have the life that you want. And I think like so many people don't notice that idea of the outside world doesn't change if your nervous system isn't ready for it to change, because you won't be able to take the actions or do the things that you need to do because you will be, however you want to describe it, procrastinating, being self-destructive, like however you want to describe it, whatever that form of not moving takes for you. If your nervous system is not in alignment and you don't feel safe, that's always going to be the case. So I think like that is really, really incredible. And I know like you've already kind of like indicated, obviously you wanted to move over and start helping women in this space as well. So what was that journey like of, okay, you've now done the thing and now you're going to help other people, almost make this like your work. Like how did that journey go for you?
I'm actually going to have to go back slightly
Hmm?
for this. So, as I would say, as a young person, I was always interested in what made people tick. What made them tick? Not their human body, but what made them tick in how they thought, how they saw the world, what actions they took, what actions they didn't take. Always really interested me. So in my 20s, as a mature student, I went back to university and I did a degree in psychology. And at the time, what I would have really liked to have done was actually, work with people one on one. But I knew that there was no way that I could do that because I wasn't in a space that I, as a human being, that I could hold the space. I mean, at the time, I didn't know that that actually was what I meant, but I couldn't be there. It's like I couldn't be there for that person in the way that they needed me to be. And it's true, at that time, I couldn't have been there. I wouldn't have been able to be there. So that was true. Absolutely. And if we fast forward to, I would say, probably around in my 30s sometime, um, so so we're going on to the spiritual here. So I came across the angels. So and by angels I mean celestial beings. So it was my mum lent me a book about the angels. And I read it and I thought, well, if the angels are really real, that would be wonderful. But they might just be a fairy tale for adults. But over time, they proved to me, they showed me that they were real. And why I'm telling you this is because there came a point. So they would guide me, they would work with me like in a meditation. And they would take me through healings that would work with my energy and my body. And they took me through this healing. And then one day I was actually on the toilet. And they showed me that although I thought I had this big heart and oh, I could really love, I had this big heart. Oh, my heart was only open this little bit. So yeah, just really tiny bit. And that was a huge surprise. That was a huge shock. And so, they took me through lots of heart healing. They worked with me a lot on that so that I became so I could become the person. So my nervous system, my body, my subconscious, and I didn't know this all at the time because this was before EFT, way before EFT. So and so I became that person who could hold that space, who could be there for those people in the way that they needed. So I was in the place that I could do this. Now, with EFT, there are so many different areas that it can help people with. And in 2019, I had this mentor who took me through this process to help me to find out, in which area my heart truly lie. And I wasn't thinking weight loss. I mean, I know I'd lost my weight, but I wasn't thinking weight loss at that time. That wasn't what I was thinking. It wasn't even on my radar as a way to help people in 2019. And it led to that I wanted to help women who had been struggling for years with their weight, who wanted to lose weight, who either couldn't lose weight, they couldn't lose enough weight, or if they did lose the weight, they would put it back on again. And so I thought after this, yes, I've done this for myself, but can I do it? Can I help other people? So I decided to test that out. And luckily, I had access to a community of other EFT practitioners and EFT students. So I reached out and asked for volunteers, and I got loads and loads of volunteers to have for 4 free sessions with me. And the answer to my question, my own question for myself that came back was yes, a resounding yes. I could 100% help, make a true, real difference, because that was so important to me, to make a true, real difference. And from those volunteers, I got my first 2 paying clients.
That's incredible. I love that. Oh my gosh. And that was the start of the new business, the new way of working, the new purpose. Like, that's absolutely incredible. Wow. Oh my gosh. I love, like, I always feel like, especially for women, like I'm sure it's the same for men, but I obviously work with women predominantly in my business. But I always feel that women are so good at going through something hard and then teaching it. Going through really understanding it's not theory, it's not, oh, well, I read this in a book once. It's very much like I've experienced this. I know I can take you through this. I can help you with this. And it's a very different way of showing up in the world and, sharing something with the world. So I think that that is absolutely incredible. I think every woman should own her own business. So I'm always so pleased when guests have actually taken what they've learned and they're actually doing something with it. I think that that's amazing. Okay, so let's take it down to practicalities then. So if we had a guest that is listening now who is struggling, um, weight, body image, anything within this realm of your expertise, what would your advice be for them as they go through this journey?
I think it would be on a number of levels, and I think it would depend on what their particular situation with their weight is. But even just, just tapping, just just tapping itself can help. So if you can hear anything, that's because I'm actually tapping. um, I can't say tapping without tapping. Um, so I think that would help itself. Um, if you struggled for years with it, I would recommend getting help with it because it can be very, very hard to see our own blind spots, our own where those subconscious, like call blocks and barriers to us reaching where we want to be with our weight and staying there. And so you can go that route. And also there will be, because there will be, I'm not the only practitioner who uses EFT for weight. There are others, and that they will have, some of them will have like free videos that you can tap along with. And the tapping solution on YouTube, I know that Jessica Altner herself has lost weight, and she actually wrote a book about using EFT for weight loss and body confidence. So that is, that is one route, going and taking a look at the book. However, I will say that weight loss when you've been struggling for years is complex. So, I would recommend getting help with it, even if it's not me. There are other people out there that can help. But if that's not a route you want to take, or if that's not a route you can take at this time, that there is the book. And there is also, I'm pretty sure that Jessica will have some tapping videos about weight on the Tapping Solution YouTube channel. So you might like to have a look at those. I know Brad Yates is all, now he does it on everything. So he might have some on weight or body image. And that's Brad Yates on YouTube channel. Um, so that's what I'm thinking at the moment.
Amazing. I love being able to give people resources. I think that that's so incredible. And I will obviously link people to your Instagram and, let people come over and engage with you as well. So obviously if they have any questions, they can come and talk to you, which I think is so, so important. But we've got one final question for the podcast. It's my favorite question that I love asking people. And that is your next personal level of healing. So, what does your next level, what are you working on at the moment? Now that you've kind of gotten to where you are, you've gotten to this goal weight. Am I correct in saying that you've healed your type 2 diabetes?
Yes. I'm no longer, at the end of 2018, after I'd lost a certain amount of weight, and I can't remember how much I'd lost, but I then moved into I was in the normal blood sugar level, and I've been there since.
Wow. I mean, that in itself is incredible. Like, well done. That's literally so amazing. But like, so what is your next level of healing? Like, what you've done all of these amazing things already. Like, what's next for you?
Thank you, thank you. And before I answer that question, just to say I don't actually have an Instagram. I'm not
Oh,
actually on
okay.
Instagram, but they can reach me through my website instead.
We'll include that below.
Thank you. So for me, now it's really interesting that you were saying about going, I think at the beginning of a conversation there, about how much, feeling, that feeling of having a character flaw, being fundamentally flawed, would affect everything in your life. And that is true. So although there's part of me that absolutely knows and has experienced it when I've worked with people, how much I can truly, truly help them. So, consciously, I know that. But then there are these other parts that are running in my subconscious, that instead of me going out there and actually proactively letting people know that I exist and how I can help, I'm in so much avoidance of actually doing anything to do with that. I'm just busy doing loads of other stuff in my business. Any of the stuff to actually do that I've got lists of to actually do to get myself out there more, allow more people to know that I exist and how I can help. They just don't get done. So that is what I'm actually working on at this moment, is working through, and there's so many levels and layers for me here with this, so that I can, get out there and help even more women, which, a huge part of me would love to do, because I know how it feels.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I just want to say welcome to being an entrepreneur.
Thank you.
It's a feeling that all of us go through, and again, like I think it's really, really good to just like normalize that feeling when you run a business. You will constantly question, even when you've got core proof that you can help people. Like I have days where I question myself and I'm a decade in. Like it's absolutely normal. So yeah, I think like yeah, that's oh my gosh, it's such a normal thing. But I think again, like it's so important for us to continue on the healing journey, to continue to see and like hold up that mirror and say like, okay, this is what is coming up for me and this is what I need to do in this space and this is how I can heal more deeply in this space. And running your own business and being an entrepreneur is, in my mind, like the biggest personal development journey you'll ever go on, because you are holding up mirrors in like every direction possible. So I think that that is, it doesn't surprise me that that is your next level of healing. Like, it doesn't surprise me that that's the thing. I think it's absolutely incredible. And it's just been so wonderful to have you on the podcast and to talk about this topic. Like, we've not had somebody speak about their weight specifically in this way. And I think that it's like, it just makes me so happy when we can bring guests on in all of these different areas and actually give voice to all of these issues that people face. Because I know that there will be people listening who are struggling or have struggled, or, if you're listening and you know somebody who's in this space, like share the episode with them, like make sure that people know that they're not alone on this journey, because it can, any healing journey can feel so isolating and so difficult when you're in it yourself and you don't have that access to a community who potentially understand what you're going through. So Fiona, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you. I will share your website below and make sure that people can contact you. Obviously, you've given us some really incredible resources as well, which I hope that people will be able to jump into. But thank you so much for taking the time and being on the podcast with us today.
Thank you so much, Jacky, for having me. It's been my pleasure to chat with you and your listeners. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another inspiring episode of The Diary of Discovery. If you found value in today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends, family, or anyone else you think might benefit from the stories of hope and transformation. Your feedback means the absolute world to us, so please take a moment to leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your reviews help us to reach even more listeners and continue to bring this meaningful content to the world. Until next time, remember, your healing journey is valid. You are never alone, and you have the strength to get through this. Keep shining bright, and we'll see you in the next episode of The Diary of Discovery.